There are some months when, everywhere you look, there seem to be problems. The call is from the rhino section at Port Lim. There's an emergency.
Hi Barry, what's the picture today?
Keeper Berry White has spotted something during routine feeding.
Right, well I'll be over, I think, about an hour and a half, something like that. We'll have a look and discuss it. All right, bye.
What's the trouble, Chris?
We've got a rhino with what might be a lesion in its mouth. We don't know quite what type of lesion or how large, or we don't know anything about it, in fact, at the moment. I'll go over and have a look.
How did she find it?
Apparently she's got a little bit of blood in her saliva when she was feeding the animals some loaves of bread. That's when she noticed it.
Which creature?
Arusha.
At Howlett, a fox has got through the fence and is killing the mara.
When the fox started becoming a problem, which we believe was just one fox that got a knack for mara, we were just finding a dead mara in the paddock with evidence a fox had taken it. And he was taking most of the pregnant females, presumably because they couldn't run as quick, and eating the fetuses and leaving them there. So you'd find them in the mornings basically with no guts in them. And this happened on about 8 occasions. They need controlling, basically. Doesn't mean going riding around on a horse and lots of dogs controlling them, but it means they need controlling humanely.
What would you have done with the fox if you could have caught him?
That's a naughty question, isn't it? How am I supposed to answer that? What am I supposed to say? Would have taken a gun to it, basically.
And all the weighbridges aren't working. Weighbridges are used to check on an animal's health. Weight change can be an early warning of illness or pregnancy, or dictate how much of a drug is needed if an animal has to be anaesthetised. Weighbridges are important.
So what do you think the problem is?
We don't have the specification because it's not one of ours.
It looks like we've got a broken cable there, which looks as if it's previously been repaired. And it's again causing a short by the looks of it.
Have
That
we?
may well be where the problem's coming from.
Right.
Tim, in my toolbox, there's that red socket set.
Yeah.
If you could pass that in.
Okay.
And there's also a packet of small spanners, the red ones.
How do you persuade a gorilla to be weighed?
You don't. It's just a matter of luck. If you see a gorilla on the weighbridge, you run round and look at the weight of them. It's just pure luck. You can't get them to go on there. I mean, it's quite handy where it is there. It's just inside the door. They often just come in and just sit there for a little while before they come in and mooch around. So it's just pure luck.
For John Aspinall, fighting his own battle against cancer, the biggest blow was to learn from vet Chris Furley that Arusha, one of the park's most magnificent black rhinos, has cancer in the mouth. Furley goes to the internet to contact professional friends around the world on what to do about it.
This is the website for the American Association of Zoo Veterinarians, and they have a discussion forum on it for vets working with zoo and wild animals to discuss their problems. I left a posting on here suggesting that we had a major problem and how other people dealt with it. Here's a message from a vet in San Diego, and they have data on 8 cases. Now I know this person, this is a comment from Minnesota Zoo, who has had also the same type of bleeding mouth in a number of rhinos. He's saying here that he used liquid nitrogen to freeze them, and it appears to have been successful. And here is a vet who has treated a dog with combinations of 3 different drugs, all of which have to be given intravenously, which of course in our case is impossible. There are no comments from anyone on this cancer in rhinos. In fact, we're on our own. No one else has seen the problem that we have with Arusha.
Arusha is 16. She's just had her first calf. She's in her prime.
Black rhinos have a number of conditions which we don't fully understand yet. We don't understand the causes. We have no treatment for them. And as a result, they're exceptionally difficult cases to handle. Obviously this is very worrying for us because Arusha now has had her first calf. She's just about to embark on a career as a breeding mother. She's of immense value to us. And she's a very big and powerful animal with good nature, obviously a good mother. So we have to do everything we can to try and solve the problem.
So in March, they decided to take the internet's advice. They froze Arusha's tumour to try to get rid of it. Initially, it didn't work.
We froze the tumour with liquid nitrogen to try to kill all the tissue there. But we also took a biopsy, a little section of it, to give to a pathologist for a diagnosis. And in fact, the diagnosis came back with the news that it was not the type of tumour that we had previously had in an animal several years ago. It was in fact an even more malignant tumour called the hemangiosarcoma, which is a long word, basically means it's a tumour of the blood vessels. The prognosis for animals with this kind of tumour is really very, very severe. The mortality rate is almost 100%.
You say that Arusha's valuable to you. Can you put that in money terms?
Well, in view of the fact that there are probably only about 3,000 black rhinos of real worth in the world today, well, I think we're talking sort of less than £1 million, but nevertheless, to get a mother-raised, breeding female black rhino, fertile, in good condition, with a lifespan ahead of her, would be a lot of money. A lot of money.
They decide again to freeze the growth in Arusha's mouth. First, she must be anaesthetised.
Someone count the breaths per minute, please. Now, if it were an expensive racehorse, an equine specialist would probably attempt to freeze the tumour a couple of times, and if it returned, the horse would actually be put down. Okay, Paul, can you hold his mouth open for? Right. And you start at the top end, because you're used to using your equipment.
Paul, can you see if you can get Rafiji into the second yard?
Suddenly, Arusha's temperature starts to rise.
Temperature's gone up.
Sorry, what?
Temperature's gone up.
To 39.2. You want to pour some of that water over her neck and chest?
Temperature's going down.
To what?
38 minutes now.
Right, okay, that's better. Right, everybody out?
A drug helps her to recover quickly. And 10 minutes later, Arusha and her calf Rafiji are reunited.
Steady.
This time we froze it and actually removed all that tumour tissue, as far as we know, to try and remove any cells that could spread to other parts of the body. Now, the good news is that she's still eating. I like the rhinos and the elephants. The problem is that they're the most difficult animals to diagnose and to treat. The black rhinos in particular present us with some horrendous problems, and I'm fortunate in that I'm not alone in that regard. Other people have had stayed awake all night for weeks on end trying to solve their problems. We're very much on uncharted ground, and we simply don't know what the outcome will be.
Mike Lockyer decides to make the Mara safer by moving them from Howlett to Port Lympne, away from the fox.
New arrivals.
Mara for you. I think they've travelled okay.
Bit different from the primate section, isn't it?
They're going into a secure cage formerly occupied by gorillas.
Just put the boxes down and bring them all in first.
The former inhabitants take a keen interest in their new neighbours.
They're known as the Patagonian hare, is the other name for them, the mara. They're related to all the guinea pigs and cavies. So they're South Americans from open grassland country, mostly.
Okay,
Over to you. I'll shut you in.
Shut me
Out
in.
the other door,
Yep.
okay? They do have rather unusual life pattern and style. For instance, they are monogamous, which is fairly rare amongst mammals. And they tend to live at a distance from one another, but when they have young, the mothers will all put them in the same crèche. When they go back to the den, the mother will whistle and call up the youngsters, and they'll all come out, all wanting to feed from the same one, and she'll sniff each one individually and decide which two are hers, and then she'll take them off a little way away and allow them to suckle. And there's so many things about them, the more you get to know them, the more fascinating they are.
The usual job for Phil Ridges is looking after gorillas.
What do you think of them, Phil? They're alright, they're like big rabbits, aren't they? Gorillas are certainly interested in them anyway. Gives them something to watch. This has got to be the securest mara enclosure in the world, I think. Certainly the tallest.
There's still trouble with the weighbridges, but they're making progress with the help of the elephants. Tim Dodwell has installed a new weighbridge in the walkway between one enclosure and another.
Let's see how it responds to your weight on each corner in turn. And we have 85, step off, go on the other corner over there. We have 80, fair enough. Now go to that end and then step off. Now step back on again. We shall have to electronically balance it to take out that difference.
On June 29th, in the year 2000, after battling bravely against cancer for 3 years, John Aspinall died. He was 74 years old.
Every day is a joy for me. It's here where I'm happiest. My spirit rests here. Whatever I'm doing is going to become more and more necessary as the years pass. So I don't feel that I'm following the wrong pathway. It's just that the pathway is so rough that I may not be able to reach the other end.
There's no one else like Mr. Aspinall. There's no one else would do this. There is no one else that will create a place like Howlett's with the sympathy and the love of the animals that are here.
My father's greatest honours come from the animals. I think they honour him, as he honours them, but they honour him.
He'll be remembered by wild animal lovers with great love, and I'm sure he'll be mourned by his animals.
He'd like to be remembered as someone who's devoted a very large proportion of the funds at his disposal, and all his time and energy and imagination and love to his animals. I mean, he was a sort of secular St. Francis.
If you could be dispassionate about this man, what do you think his contribution has been?
God, I mean, his contribution is massive. If you see that he's effectively torn up the rule book, gone against every established code of animal husbandry, and succeeded where others haven't. People come now from all over the world to see how we do it.
I have an instinct to protect, and this instinct finds expression in what I do for the animals. I don't need an approval from the gods that what I'm doing is the right thing to do, because I know it is.
As far as it could, necessary work in the animal parks went on as normal.
Ho, ho, ho.
Within a few days, there's better news of Arusha, the black rhino.
Whereas a week ago, every time she was eating, there was a lot more blood coming from her. We're not seeing much blood there.
Have you tried to look in her mouth recently?
She's so aware of what's going on that she's really keeping her mouth shut. We really have to tempt her with bananas and bread. But the growth's still there, basically, nothing like as much as
Both
was
sides or just one side?
The side that was really bad actually seems to be clearing better, but the other side's, still quite red, but we won't be able to gauge it until we have another decent look inside and knock her out. It might be a little bit harder to separate refugia off because, Arusha, like I say, she's very twitchy and she's running in and out quickly, so...
Well, we can't really do much if he's there, so we have to separate him off one way or another.
So the battle to save Arusha from cancer goes on.
Well, what I hope will happen is that we'll be able to hopefully seal the fate of any more tiny bits of tumour tissue that are there, and then possibly one or maybe two more occasions like that may actually clear the mouth and do the job. But one of the things I really want to check on is how far that's healed from the surgery that we did last time.
Today we've made significant progress and all this area is beginning to heal. We've got an active cancerous lesion down here which we've just frozen. But in actual fact it is healing and the omens at the moment look better than we could possibly have hoped for. So providing we can keep on top of all these other little growths, we might even be in a situation where we could hope that she might recover from this condition, certainly in the mouth anyway, because we don't know what's happening in the rest of the body.
It's difficult to know what the future's going to be for her, but all we can do at the moment is fight it and try and get on top of it.
Because you've known her how long?
Well, she's 16 years old. When I came here, she was a year old, so less than that. So all her life, really. And that's the sadness about this is, she's just started breeding. She's over, she's chuffed to bits about having her calf, and so it just sort of seems a very, tragic thing to be happening. But at the end of the day, she's still with us. She's still enjoying being with her baby, and if we can get on top of it, then we will.
The Mara survivors are thriving in their new home.
Obviously, it's temporary accommodation. This is a gorilla enclosure, but all things considered, they're quite settled, really.
Did they try to dig?
They have done, yes, in one corner, if you can call it a corner in a round cage. But they've dug about a foot under the ground there.
Do you think they were trying to escape or simply to make a new home?
Maybe a bit of both. It's perfectly natural for them to do that, and they're just sort of carrying out instinct, really.
So what's going to happen to these Mara? I mean, there were so many of them, and now there are only 6 left.
Luckily, a place in Tunbridge called Groombridge Place have kindly offered to take them off our hands, and they will go there within hopefully in a week or so and be with other Mara, because they already got Mara there.
And at last, the weighbridges are working. Tebby is trying one out, and her weight is fine.
This is Tebby with our little infant Kibu. She's our miracle mum, the one that we were told had no uterus and only one ovary when we sent her up to London Zoo for examination. This was many, many years ago. And she surprised us all by about 10 years later, popping up with a baby. This is our second one. The first one died after a week, unfortunately. But quite often first babies aren't quite as strong as they might be. But this one's doing really well.
John Aspinall may be dead, but the traditions live on. Once a week, treats for the animals, including Arusha, now on the road to recovery.
Hello, Ruth. Come on, I've got some chocolates for you.
All right, this is... All right.
Chocolate sandwich, your favourite fruit.
Arusha's mouth is very much better.
There you go, Garish.
So how's the tumour, Barry?
Well, you can see there, that's completely gone, that side. So it's just a question of keeping an eye on it now and hoping it won't come back. But it's amazing, considering the size of it, that it's cleared up.
Yeah, they've done a really good job so far.
Yeah, it's excellent.
Just hope it doesn't return, girlie.
All right, good.
They only get this treat once a week as we go round, which allows us to get close to them and inspect them, make sure there's no wounds, see how they are. Always use the Bourneville, plain chocolate. We used to give them milk chocolate, but then we made a policy decision that we thought that the plain was better for them than the milk.
You're not worried they'll become chocoholics?
Yes, we are. That's why we only do it once a week, just as a little treat.
Berry, do you think chocolate is good for them?
Well, I know they love it, but I mean, it doesn't seem to have caused them any problems. You know, I mean, they've had it for years and years, so, you know, a bar or two once a week doesn't seem to hurt them, they love it, so.
John Aspinall lies in the avenue leading to the mansion that was his home for more than 40 years. His family, lifelong friends and senior colleagues were there when he was laid to rest.
Directly above Mr. A's grave, the sun was shining, and there was like a circle, a rainbow, and a perfect circle of a thicker cloud right around, directly above the grave, in the sky, directly above the grave. Perfect circular rainbow. Ian Player saw it too, and said he'd never seen a circular rainbow in his life. I'm sure people will explain it all away somehow. Perhaps we know different.
"4 months after John Aspinall died, a nation came to Howletts to pay tribute to him. The Zulus were led by their chief, Buthelezi, and they danced in a celebration of John Aspinall's life. Aspinall was never honoured by his own country. To the Zulus, who admired his style, his bravery, his love of animals, he was a white chief, an Induna, a leader of men. When he was dying, Buthelezi, a Christian, flew from Africa to London to pray at the bedside of Aspinall the atheist.
That was one of the most extraordinary things in my life, really. He should come all that way to see me. And while he prayed, I called the ancient names of the Zulu kings. I called the names of the ancient kings. So I was really in semi-pagan prayer, and he was praying for me in a Christian way.
Did you find that an irony?
It's an irony, but it was very moving, because his Christianity was a genuine one.
He was a brother to all of us as the Zulu nation. I don't think that the void that was created by his death can be easily filled by anyone. And that is why we've come all this way today to pay the tribute which we think he deserves. I came across to see him in the hospital, and I knelt there and I prayed to Christ, my Lord, for his life. On the other hand, he told me that he was praying at the same time with me, but praying to his ancestors. He's with his ancestors now. As Zulus believe that when you live, you join the spirits of your ancestors, and that they look after you We believe that he lives. We believe that he was with us today. We believe that he's smiling today.
Though Aspinall was dead, the projects that he had begun sped on at breakneck speed. His son Damien has picked up the baton.
By nature, I'm an expansionist. So I don't look to make things smaller. I look to make things bigger, and I look to make things better. So when I look around me, I look at how can we make this better for the animal? How can we make this better?
Damien is John's eldest son.
It's looking very nice.
He's made his millions in property. With his uncle James Osborne and step-brother Amos Courage, he will now form the management team that runs Howlett's and Port Lim and Aspinall's animal interests around the world.
Vacuums aren't filled, everything decays and goes into a mess. The task put in front of me in my lifetime is, can I get it to the next phase?
Today they wait as the gorillas are released into their new paddock at the Palace of the Apes at Port Lim, the 7th large enclosure for gorillas in the park.
One of you let them out then?
When wet.
We've successfully taken gorillas back to the wild. We've done this with a number of species, but what can we do with the other species? Is there any way we can get Siberian tigers back to Siberia? How do we do that? Now, there's 99 people out of 100 will say you can't do it. And just shut the door in your face. Well, we'll keep knocking.
Hey,
come on, Jala. Come on, Jala. Come on, Jala. First time they've been out in the open, isn't it? Come on. I would like to leave the problem for my children. And so Dad's now left us reserves all over the world. Now we've got to look not after just Howlett's and Port Lim, but we've got to look after a huge sanctuary in Siberia, we've got to look after a huge sanctuary in Poland, another huge one in Indonesia. That's worthwhile for me. So expansion is something it's in my nature. It's in the Aspinall nature. I mean, we don't sit back and watch things happen. Come on. Come on, Kishi. There's 11 in total in this group. Mumba's 13, Kishi 12, and then Tamki's 11, and then Emmy, Fufu, and Kibi are all 8. Who we got now? Kishi and Dishi,
yep.
Mumba, and Jaja.
Fufu there.
Fufu. Come on.
Are the treats much the same as when John was alive?
Oh yes, exactly the same. In fact, we collected these from Howlett's. There's a store that's kept stocked by cash and carry. Chocolates and dried fruit.
So the treats will go on?
Oh gosh, yes, of course. Of course.
What's that he's looking for at the moment?
It looks like chocolate raisins. They'll spend hours foraging in this tall grass. It's all exploring now. Come on.
He's checking, how to get out.
That's exactly what he's checking, isn't it? Come on.
You've got to be a bit careful that they don't shin up the tree and away they go.
Well, the trees have got electric wire around them, so it's a jolt when they touch it. It's not going to harm them, but it's enough to stop them wanting to do it again.
Already, the Aspinalls have released some gorillas into the wild, to 3,000 acres of jungle they've bought in the Gabon, in Africa.
And I remember when I was in the Gabon, and I bonded with the wild gorillas, they were very, very flattered. The gorillas have a way of bonding, a way of holding each other. And they were, obviously that hadn't been done by the locals. And they were very flattered, I suppose, to have a human bond with them. No, I think we learned the whole time. Emmy, come here. Emmy, here.
Did it surprise you at all that the wild gorillas bonded with you?
They're young, so no, it didn't surprise me. I think if you go in with adult gorillas that are wild, you'd have to be much more cautious. But they're young gorillas in the Gabon. Well, I think people underestimate the intelligence of gorillas. We've got electric fences in parts of the forest to protect some of the huts in the forest. One particular gorilla has learned, to put saplings over the electric fence and climb over it. Highly intelligent animals and underestimated. So I think the fact that they learn very quickly is not such a surprise for us. But some things they do surprise us, like this particular gorilla who has learned to climb an electric fence.
Did you discover that too late, or?
Yeah, my stepbrother discovered it too late when he found the gorilla swinging on his shutters one morning. But he was a friendly gorilla. Well, going to get the first shot. Has he got a shock? Shock of his life. This was planned by my father and the keepers, the heads of section. 8 years ago, this idea came about.
The Palace of the Apes cost £750,000. Altogether, the parks cost between £4 and £6 million a year. All this doesn't intimidate the team who must fill the void left by John Aspinall's death.
If I get things right and I do things the way I expect to do them, I would hope £4 million is not even noticed out of the cash flow. It doesn't bother me at all. I hope it will be an insignificant amount, because what I plan to do is going to need a lot more than that. This is probably the perfect gorilla cage, because it's the best of both worlds. It's a very big caged area and a very big outside area. So in an ideal world, you give them both. It'll be interesting to see what they prefer, whether they prefer the traditional enclosure or the outside space.
Your father would be very pleased.
I think he'd be very pleased, yeah.
This enclosure at Howlett's is for the rare and reclusive palace cat from Central Asia. Today, they're taking delivery of 2 cats who've arrived that morning at London Heathrow Airport. They're a precious cargo.
How much of a coup is it to get these cats?
Oh, a big coup. A lot of palace cats are dying out because they're being poisoned. Plus, Mongolia were exporting thousands of these pelts from these cats for fur coats. So us getting these, yeah, it's a big coup. We've got 2 females at the moment, and there's 2 males coming in the pipeline, so hopefully we'll start breeding and put the numbers back up again. The cat itself is very small. Chances are people won't see them that often in their cage because of the size. But hopefully when the babies come along, they'll get out and about a bit more. They are nocturnal, but we tend to feed them in the mornings and in the evenings to try and encourage them to come out more.
The palace cat, as we say, is nocturnal and very reclusive.
The climate here, is it similar to what they might experience in their home in Mongolia?
Not exactly, but it's pretty close. We get cold winters, they live in the cold. They get hot spells, we get hot spells. So it's reasonably the same within a couple of degrees. They do live up to 3,000 metres up. So obviously it's quite rocky, very little vegetation. So we decided that we would build a rock face, but on a smaller scale, with a waterfall, to try and mimic the habitat of where they come from.
How threatened is this breed?
Very. It's probably one of the top 10% of worldwide animals that are endangered, seriously.
Damien Aspinall and James Osborne are determined that the Aspinall tradition of contact sessions in the parks will continue.
That wasn't too clever, was it?
Their gorilla companions are Ambam and Django and Kush, 3 members of a unique bachelor group they keep at Port Lim.
We have 100 gorillas in our care at the moment, which 65 are at Howlett's and Port Lim. The balance being in the Gabon and the Congo. No, c'est bon.
I've got a pineapple-riddled face now.
He's a good boy, isn't he? The aim was always to build up a big bank of gorillas and then to slowly start sending them back into the wild. We sent the first 2, and in the next year we'll judge how successful that's been, and then we'll continue to send further gorillas out to the Gabon.
James Osborne chairs the John Aspinall Trust of Friends and Supporters, which largely funds the parks, including, of course, these bachelor gorillas.
They'll live in more or less harmony unless you put a female in. Then all hell would break loose. They would all start fighting over a female.
So what's the future for this bachelor group?
To prosper and flourish, and where we find suitable other homes for them that we approve of, to provide male gorillas for them. I'm now in a headlock. He's unbelievable, isn't he? Really cuddly.
Yeah, sweet boy.
Is he? He's eaten something very oniony.
Is he? He's in good shape.
He is a bit fat, isn't he?
Yeah.
I do think his hand is saying the same thing about me.
You'll put on a lot of weight now, the next 2 years, 2 or 3 years. You'll put on 50% again now in weight. There's always moments of excitement. Sometimes gorillas can quarrel amongst each other, but you learn to read animals and gorillas and elephants, and but sure, there's an excitement. It's part of the reason why goes in, because it's exciting. If they're biting too hard, you can hit them off if you wanted to, or you can just start tickling them somewhere else, and they move on somewhere else. A lot of it is distraction with an animal as opposed to confrontational. Keith is amazing. He loves to play very rough, and then loves to slow down and have a cuddle. Come on, Django.
Django's a big boy.
If one of them is playing roughly or getting too rough, you'll try and encourage another to come and join in the play. Not too hard. Come on then, man. Help. Come on, help. Thank you. They'll always prefer playing with each other than us because they can be rougher. I think that we've set a standard that the rest of the zoos have to follow. No other collection in the world has built bachelor houses, especially for bachelor gorillas.
Oh, I can see it. I can see it.
In the wild, male gorillas will go off in bachelor groups. So we've tried to copy that as best as we can. Hence you can see 4, 5, 6, 7 silverback gorillas probably in 5 years' time all running together. And that's how you'd see it in the wild, and that's how you see it here.
It's a good boy.
You got me, didn't you? You got me.
Though they're much smaller than the gorillas, gibbons are much more difficult to bond with. Experienced as he is, keeper Ernie Thetford stands with a wire fence firmly between him and this rare ape.
We do go in with isolated individuals, but we tend not to generally go in with the gibbons. They're a bit territorial and a bit unpredictable, and it's best not to build up too much of a routine. They're extremely fast, and if they get to know you too well, then they can become aggressive, and they have very long canine teeth, and I don't think it's worth it from their point of view. Marlena here was one of the first pairs that we imported in 1984. She's had several caesarean sections with difficult births, but she reared all those individuals, and the last two have been natural births, which is a great relief to us. This was a natural birth. She's about 7 weeks old now. They are a monogamous pair, very much pair bonded with their own territory, and it doesn't work so well with gibbons, I don't think, to invade that area, that privacy. Because they're apes, they can get the kind of diseases that we have, and we can pass diseases on to them, and then they pass diseases on to us. So we have vaccinations so we can work with the gibbons, and I don't like to allow too much contact because it's very easy for passing people to pass on diseases, and we've only got a very small number in captivity and a small wild population. And they're one of the first species to go if forest has been tampered with. There's a very small population in Java. There's only perhaps anything from 300 to 1,000 left, which continues to fall. They are the rarest gibbon in the world.
I mean, a tragedy, wouldn't it, if disease entered into this group?
Yes, they did once have a disease that was in one of the other ape groups in the zoo. Could have been really critical, but luckily we managed to get antibiotics to all of them, and they survived that. But it's These kind of things are very worrying, and you could lose the whole group quite easily. It'll be a disaster because we've got 7 founder members at the moment, and that's not that many to base a whole population on. When I started 13 years ago, we had 3, but we now have nearly 20. For gibbons that are slow producing, they only have an infant every 2 years. It takes 7 or 8 years to get to maturity. It's a slow process, and it's one that can only be built up through prolonged commitment to a species.
Quite an achievement.
I like to think so, yeah, quietly.
The new management team will in future meet at Howlett's every Monday morning.
I don't know if there'll be changes. We embrace, and I embrace, and James embraces my father's ethos. So there's only one John Aspinall. We could never even come close to being another John Aspinall. Our aim and our intention and our will, and we will succeed, is to carry on his life's work. That sets certain challenges for us, but we embrace the challenges. My father was a gambler, and he's gambled on his half-brother and his son and members of the family that will continue to do the fine work that he's done, probably with half the ability, but we will do it, and we won't let him down.
A new pool is being built for the elephants, and more land will be bought so that they will have more space to roam.
You've got plans to expand here, the field next door?
Well, it's about 4.5 acres, which is it's just grass. So what we're hoping to do is get it fenced off, in the near future, and it will be just primarily either it may be 1 or 2 grass paddocks. We're not sure yet, but it'll be an added bonus for us. It'll give us a bit more room, especially with the young bulls. The time's going to come when Osh, especially, he's 6 now. He's going to start getting a little bit of hassle off the girls. So at least we'll have somewhere that we can put him. Maybe we could put him with a couple of young females. It's going to make all the difference to us. And I think possibly the more space we get, the more success we're going to have. They've actually just raised the level of the paddock, so in the winter time when it's wet, the water will drain away and we won't get left with a mess, mud. Because it's gone up so high, the pool has had to be raised. It is slightly bigger now because of the height. It's probably maybe about another 2 foot deep, which we are filling at the moment.
In another enclosure, the fishing cats from Asia are thriving, and they've borne a litter of kittens. But one of the biggest challenges for the future is that all this costs millions of pounds.
It's closer to 6 million. And it goes up every year because we breed more rhino, we breed more elephant. We've just had to buy more lands for our elephant at an extortionate amount of money because we have to find land for them. We have 35 gorillas in Africa. They have to be fed, they have to be guarded, they have to have camps built for them, for the staff. Therefore, that costs a lot of money. So the more successful you are, the more it costs. And in 5 years' time, it will probably be £10 million a year.
To put the £6 million into perspective, the budget for San Diego Zoo is $140 million a year. So it's a mere fraction of the cost of San Diego Zoo.
Do you feel on a never-ending treadmill?
It is a treadmill, never-ending treadmill, but it's a treadmill that's well worthwhile treading on. A lot of people could just throw money away to a useless cause. I think that conservation, the animals, they need this, and we're happy to give it to them.
Your father was so hands-on. Will you, James and Amos, will you try to keep it as hands-on?
I think that when you have responsibility for the amount of animals that we have, you can't be any other way. So undoubtedly that we'll all step up a gear.
I have every confidence in the future. I'm sure that Damien and our family will keep it all going as John would wish, I'd expect.
But how are you going to do that? You're a busy man making a fortune.
Well, you make time. I look forward to it. The idea of spending more time at Howlett's is a pleasure to me as opposed to sitting in London trying to make money.
It must seem strange without Dad.
Yes. Good boy. Good boy. There's a void and an emptiness, but he's still here. Everywhere you look, he's here. His presence is felt. There's only one John Aspinall. We will always be cast in his shadow.
Oh, you'll never play.
But we will succeed. Simple as that. And we will do it in the way that we know best. And others may frown upon us sometimes, which is probably a healthy thing. And yes, we will succeed.